It's time to kick things off here at the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series. We are live from Montreal, Canada to find out if anybody is going to be making it in the last moments to the global finals at BlizzCon. I'm Nathanius, your host, joined once again by In Control and Rotterdam. We'll be getting into our first match very soon. Snute versus Hartstem coming up.
Ooh.
Good PvZ to start things off, Kev.
Yep, excellent PvZ. And if I am correct, Nate, so don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that this group is completed by Raynor and Bly. So this is not one of those opening matches where it's like, it would be nice if I win, but both Hartstem and Snute are going to advance anyway. If Raynor and Bly are in this group as well, especially Raynor, I know we all love Bly for his crazy tactics, and I know that he worked hard, but I really have my eyes on Raynor as well. This is a very stacked group for the second group phase.
And Bly plays the cooler in that group. His ZvZ is lethal. I don't think he's improved a lot in ZvT and ZvP, but he's kind of more mixed results there. But his ZvZ, man, he's been doing it really well there.
It's an area where we see a lot of the European players do kind of well. We have a lot of good Zergs.
Got a lot of
Europe.
Zergs over there.
A lot of Zergs. A lot of really good Zergs over in Europe.
What is it about the Europeans and Zergs?
What is it about the Europeans and Zergs? What is it about Snute?
They were inspired
Roddy?
by Stefano, okay?
Stefano.
He was that front man, and he's been running for it. Now, Snute is currently 9th in the WCS player ranking. So obviously it's very, very important for Snute to have a deep run here if he wants to make it to the global finals for the 3rd year in a row. He was there in 2016, he was there in 2017. It's looking rough, but it's not impossible. He just needs at least a quarterfinal.
It makes my heart palpitate because Snute is one of the hardest working pro gamers. He's a household name. He's been around a long time. And he's an emotional player. When that guy loses, he really feels it. But it's also cool because when he wins, that emotion comes back that way as well. So, we'll be rooting for him.
And I think it's easy for me to make the segue here as it's Roddy.
He's Kevin. I'm Jeff. We get confused a lot.
I was about to say Kevin and say the wrong name because I was like, oh yeah, because Hartstem's name is Kevin, but you're both technically Kevin, so it just makes my life awkward and easy. But Hartstem, Kevin the King, Roddy.
Yes.
He's got a bit of a long shot here.
Sorry, say again.
It's a bit of a long shot for him, right?
Yeah, no, Hartstem did not have the year that we expected of him, at least. He made it into the playoffs, I believe, at Valencia, where he lost against Snute. Why are you laughing?
No, it's the year of Hartstem, that joke. It's not the year of Hartstem.
No, but I just really felt that Hartstem, I think he has underperformed this year. I generally mean that. Every now and then he's shown us some greatness, like in Nation Wars in March. He really looked on top of his game. He won almost every single match for the Netherlands. But that was his best performance of the year, and that's kind of the wrong moment to peak, Jeff.
Right.
You rather peak at a WCS Valencia or at Leipzig. So this is really the last shot for Hartstem to kind of save his year and maybe have a marvelous run.
I think Hartstem was one of the casualties of that WCS system. Real quick, it's just been so good at picking up talent and making new guys emerge. We got Raynor, we got Clem, we got all these other old faces. That some of those results are starting to stymie, and it's not because they're getting worse, because everybody else is getting better.
Yep, a lot of competition here at the WCS. We're ready to bring our first players onto the stage. We've got Smix to bring them out. How are you enjoying your Montreal stay so far?
I am so happy to be here. The audience here is always fantastic. So fantastic to be in front of you guys as we bring out our players for our first match of the day. It is going to be Snute and Hartstem.
Some very loud cheers coming out of the crowd there for Hartstem as our players shake hands and make their ways over to their booth. Snute has made a ton of money playing StarCraft. He's been around forever. You were saying, Roddy, household name.
I like that you mentioned that, Nate, because Snute is still this most successful non-Korean StarCraft 2 player of all time.
Is he?
But he's only a couple $1,000s ahead of Neeb at the moment. So if Neeb would outperform Snute by, let's say, 2 rounds over here, there is a good chance that Neeb will take that title from Snute. A title that Snute has had for quite some time. I think ever since he surpassed Stefano probably a couple years ago.
And it's nice of the two of them to hold on to that while Cyril goes ahead and snatches it from him next year.
November.
November.
High hopes there. We have of course, you guys can vote in the chat. Let us know who you think's going to win while you're all quoting Rotterdam every time he says, don't quote me. But right now it's at 50-50.
Wow.
Do you agree? Do you agree with the maybe like 10 people that have voted so far? There we go. Now we got results coming in.
Historically, it's very close between these two. Map score-wise, 46 against 37 in favor of Snute. Series 17-13, but like you guys said, these guys have been around forever, so that's not super relevant. Over the last year and a half, it's really 50-50 between them. Sometimes Hartstem won, Snute won a couple. That's how I see this matchup as well. Just two great European players. It really just depends on any given day, I'd say.
As the armchair quarterback, I got to give it to Snute in the sense that he really needs it. Hartstem, it's like that silly thing where if he wins, he can go. Come on. But Snute at number 9, a good result and a couple of these players dropping out can get him in there.
Yeah, can secure him that spot. As the points thing has also been interesting because Cyril has taken all of the WCS qualification spots, which makes those, it gives you a little more leeway with the points, but not a crazy amount.
To keep it simple for Hartstem, he indeed needs to win the entire event to make it into the global finals. And some people say that's absolutely impossible. I give it an 0.5% chance. It's not likely.
So you're saying there's a chance?
He has won big tournaments in the past, guys. He was victorious in Shanghai 2 years ago. He has won a home Story Cup when all the top Europeans were participating as well. I'm not going to come in there and say Hartstem is the top favorite to take it all, guys. I'm not saying that. But I believe there is a timeline out there out of all the timelines we could live where Hartstem could win this event.
A greater than 0% chance, is that what you're saying?
I'm saying there is a chance.
Greater than 0.
There is literally a chance. It is possible. Okay, so if he's going to win this match, what do you expect to see out of him? Is Hartstem going to shake things up?
Very solid defensive play. We know that Hartstem likes to expand very quickly in this matchup, and he feels confident. It's really weird because Hartstem's protos against Zerg is actually quite fun to study because there are moments where he really feels it and he loves the matchup and he has no fear. He goes up to 4 bases at the 5-minute mark. I kid you not. 3 bases at the 3-minute mark. But then suddenly something snaps and he's suddenly starting to get afraid of everything that could hit him, and then he misses it. But I saw his Group Stage 1 performance. He lost against Denver. That's not a shame, but Denver Snute, that's probably quite similar, right, in skill level. But he actually had a very tough time against a North American Zerg player in that group as well, on Lost and Found. He really was on the ropes. He didn't lose. So maybe Snute actually has a small lead going into this series because Hartstem's PvZ, I don't feel like he has that magic that he had 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay.
Both players not afraid to go in the late game. Hartstem quite good in that late game, but Snute mastered it. These maps good for it as well.
Say that's kind of one of the things when we talk about Snute, long games, kind of his area of comfort. So I was going to ask, do we expect Hartstem maybe try some aggressive plays if he's an underdog in this match?
I feel like if he is truly not feeling this matchup, he will. But in general, that's not where Hartstem shines either. Like Jeff says, like, it would be very out of Hartstem's comfort zone to be like, I'm going to end these games on 48 probes, you know, with a fake third base. Like, that's not Hartstem either. So normally, this should actually be a long first series of the day.
I don't think we have the maps for this yet, but for PvZ, do you have any preference on that, what we might see, what we might expect out of any of the new maps? Are there any strategies that have popped up on these?
With these two, I'm really expecting the most generic map pool, like Lost and Found, Acid Plant, and then, well, pick your poison for the last one, maybe Cerulean Fall or Dreamcatcher, something like that.
Strategy-wise, I just echo what Kevin said. He favors the faster third, and he doesn't like the Warp Prism Archon Harass as much, is what he said. That being said, he's told me that, and then he's also just done it, so we'll see.
We've seen a good mix of that coming in and out. Outside of this, looking in since it's the earlier group stages, you guys are going to be following some of the other games.
Absolutely.
Are there any other underdogs, like super underdogs, that you maybe don't pick to go super far, but someone that you want to see play well or show some good games?
Anyone from North America that's not Neat. We had Jon Snow, I think, make it through that first group and is doing pretty darn good for himself. Semper is in there as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, this is kind of the same story as in Valencia, but the youngsters, man, like Clem and Raynor, obviously I'm incredibly excited to follow their journey. I will keep a very close eye on it. Utermo is that underdog. Like, if you talk about people winning it to secure that spot, Utermo's also not the top favorite in this event, but in my opinion, he's in my top 5 to maybe win this event. And like I said, Serral's streak is absolutely ridiculous. It's not just WCS, it's everything. Eventually, that young man has to lose. He's a human being. He's supposed to have a bad day.
He doesn't, by the way. He just like does the whole year winning. He has something like, you might know the number better than me. It's like 35 series in a row without a loss.
At that point, if he were to win BlizzCon, do we get him like the Flash meme where he's like, I beat StarCraft 2 multiplayer in 2018?
Pretty much what it feels like.
Award him the golden Serral, like literally a little golden Serral. We award 2 Serral. We're like, you are him.
Give him
You know, I said this in the rehearsal, guys, but fun fact, the only WCS thing he didn't win this year, if you don't count Katowice, but I'm talking the circuit stops, is the very first challenger for Leipzig. He was 2nd place. After that, he won it all, but this is the last WCS stop, so maybe he just won everything in the middle, guys. Maybe he doesn't want the first or the last. He just wants everything in the middle.
Yeah, but BlizzCon's the last WCS.
No, but that's more. Then it fuses. Like, that's why GSO is the world in Katowice.
We're in like the labyrinth of Kevin's mind. Like, this
no,
is the middle.
Guys,
that's extra. This is inside.
I'm talking 4 WCS stops, and I'm talking challenger and main event. That's 4 times 2, and he didn't win the very first.
And not Katowice and
4, Jeff.
Kevin, I would need an analyst desk to analyze what you just said. I would need my own segment. We'd crunch the numbers.
Fine. If you can't count to 4, I can't help you, Jeff. Like
1, 2, 6.
For a number cruncher, I expected more than
I go above and beyond. The little ones I leave to different
okay,
people.
okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other players that we're maybe not giving enough attention to when we talk about the Cyril thing? A few guys have taken maps off of him this year.
Haz is back,
Which,
baby.
that's all we got.
Haz is back in town, baby.
A Lambo, maybe, guys?
I mean, that challenge, the Challenger final was weird, and then it all of a sudden seemed like Cyril flipped a switch.
I love how you guys always ask me, like, who can bring the fight to Cyril? And then I just do, you know, the most honest thing where obviously I always say Cyril is the overwhelming favorite, but
After
I name
you
a couple
mentioned
players.
2 Dutch players.
And then if I mention anyone, you guys just start laughing at
Well,
me.
I
Like,
just-
why even ask the question
I
in the
know.
first
Why
place?
leave
I laugh
asking
because
it?
Jeff laughs. I can't control
Yeah,
myself.
well, whatever.
And I laugh because I laugh. So.
I'm done with both of you guys. You know what?
Well, we have
Let's
a
wrap
few
it
more
up.
minutes.
Give the trophy.
I was like, Ken, we actually aren't done with each other right now.
Okay. Well, I think that's the big conversation of the weekend is everyone's just going to be asking who can beat Cyril? How would they go about doing it?
So what's your top 5, Nate?
Oh, wow.
My top 5?
Yeah.
The player that came to my mind when I was thinking about someone that could upset there would be Hero Marine, who has taken maps, and he's a player that we've talked up, but he's also in that category of would need to have a miracle run here.
I would agree with Hero Marine if it wasn't for the fact that, you know, let's say they played 3 series ago and he really put up a decent fight and it got more lopsided
Yeah.
ever
Yeah,
since.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I want to believe in that one, but that's just becoming more brutal every time they play. So.
You know, okay, here's one we haven't mentioned. Showtime, actually.
Yeah.
Posting up amazing
Okay.
results over in Korea. He himself talked about how he feels like he's leveled up quite a bit on his Twitter, because I follow him on Twitter because he's really handsome. And he's going into this tournament feeling pretty good. And then he had some smaller Korean tournaments that didn't, of course, they're not the GSL, so we don't talk about it as much, where he was beating top-tier Koreans across all 3 races. So he's coming in looking really, really good and confident for the first time, because almost every other WCS stop, it felt like we almost like apologetically mentioned Showtime. We're like,
Yeah.
he's here, guys. And he's like, can he do it? I don't know.
Yeah, well, some players have lost and gained steam over the year in that way.
Yeah.
Is there anyone that we thought was cold at the start of the year that you think maybe hasn't looked like that?
Elaser is my pick for someone who had a slow start to the year, but has really been racking up wins. Like I think of the Clash Invitational as well, where he's 6-0 in best of 5. So I have faith for him.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. The game is finally ready to go. Let's kick off our WCS Montreal. It's time for Hartstem versus Snute.
Welcome to the first match of the stage, anyways. Snute versus Hartstem, ZvP, one for the ages. It should be a very exciting match. I am Zombie Grub, casting with the one and only Pig, and we're getting right into it on Acid Plant. In the top left, for Team Liquid, he is the blue Zerg Snute.
One of the most consistent players throughout all of StarCraft 2's history. And another veteran down here in the bottom right-hand side. He's hit some highs. As Rotterdam was saying, he's won some championships in the past. He'd love to get a repeat here. Down in the bottom right, in the red, he is Hartstem. Representing Asterion Gaming.
I look concerned, but I think he's just really into his music, as he always is.
Always. You know, you can see him just rapping along a little bit with whatever he's listening to at the time.
Yeah.
He's got a good mix of taste as well. You know, I'd say usually it's hip hop in the intense moments, but he's got a big range. Sometimes he'll pull out some classic rock, something like
Sure,
that.
yeah. I think he likes some poppy songs too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He likes Nicki Minaj.
Oh, yeah.
Big fan. Big fan.
So the desk talked a lot about it, and I definitely agreed with a lot of Roddy's points, but I got to give this one to Snute, but I think that they will have quite a good best of 3, like to the ace match results. They're in a very difficult group though, so sometimes even at this stage we're kind of like, yeah, but they're obviously going to get out. Like that is not the case with Raynor and Bly. Whoever, I mean, whether you go winners or losers, like that's still going to be kind of difficult. So to get that edge to start off Montreal like really strong, of course, would be great for Snute, who is in the running for BlizzCon, and for Hartstem, well, it'd have to be a great start for him because you have to actually win the whole thing.
Yeah, no free maps this stage. You know, group stage 2 in a WCS event is not a free pass, no matter which group you land in this group especially not the case. Of course, Snute's Overlord here going to be watching that chrono-boosted first unit. Notices that the Warp Gate research was delayed, so Snute is aware that that extra little bit of gas has gone into the fastest Stargate and is going to be very well educated than what he's facing off against. We can also see Snute actually very cleverly is hiding an Overlord in the very top right-hand side of the map, which both scouts for proxies, but can also be morphed into an Overseer. And the Phoenix is very unlikely to find it in the top right. So really cool little preparation, minutes and minutes ahead of time for Snute. You can tell he wants to see what the follow-up is for Hartstem.
Yeah, absolutely. Dep's going to get in here, and I mean, I expect to see... Oh, okay, so maybe Phoenix first. That's not surprising, but it's one or the other. And I was going to say, I expect to see that longer game, like the Desk was talking about. Acid Plant, also our older map of the new map pool, so it's actually one of the big reasons why it's chosen, it seems, is the new map list actually is a little bit favorable towards that Zerg, but Hartstem obviously comfortable on it. There he goes, following up with the Oracle now, as he gets rid of this pesky little Overlord.
Yeah, you know, Hartstem is one of these players who is so good in the late game. They were mentioning it on the desk there. Hartstem, he loves going up to those later stages. You know, if there's one player who I've seen in more mass tempers, Psystorm carrier games than any other Protoss, it's got to be Hartstem. He'll do it against Protoss players. He'll do it against Terran players as well. But Snute, you know, also one known for that stage. But I would argue against Protoss, Snute doesn't want it to get that late. The kind of latter stages of the mid-game, Snute's going to be looking to push, deny the 4th base, trying to sort of overwhelm in those middle stages.
Snute really loves those Hydra busts, you know, like 50-55 kind of the Hydra busts. He's when I wanted to learn the multiple variations of it, I would be like, I need to find a Snute replay. He's doing a lot of them. It's not the only thing he can do, and it's not, you know, because he thinks he's overall worse against later game Protoss, but I think every Zerg is hesitant to let it go extremely late game, but oh wow, that is a triple Stargate.
Yeah, speaking of being a little bit hesitant, Hartstem was very careful with that first Oracle. Didn't want to dive for any worker kills whatsoever. Few Zerglings going to go out from Snute to pressure the 3rd base, and he's going into a Roach Warren. Now, it's very bad as the Zerg against this 2 Stargate Phoenix. If you start investing in a lot of Roaches, it can be really awkward. You see these Zerglings are eager for information right now. They're going to spot those 4 Adepts, but what Snute really needs to see is the 2nd Stargate. He's going to bank up. Is that even a 3rd Stargate?
It is, yes.
Oh my lord, sorry.
Yeah.
3 Stargates, massing Phoenix for now, and do you think it's just straight into Sky Toss after that? It's got to be straight into carriers, right?
I was like, triple Stargate, and you were like, yeah, that's okay. And I was like, is it really? Oh, wait, hold on here. And no, but it is really abnormal that I don't even blame you, right? Like that is, I mean, it's a lot of Phoenix. But then I wonder if there is going to be a transition, because at one point we had that mass Oracle phase that was so weird. We did have mass Phoenix, and you just stuck on them. But, you know, more often, you know, if you did go for double Stargate, you eventually went back into that ground army. When you go triple Stargate, I mean, are you ever going to go back to that ground army? You really want to see how this is going to play out. Snute's making a lot of Roaches. Stopped at 50 workers, 3 bases. Phoenix is going to be scouting for that drone count, scouting for the 4th base eventually. Sees the lair, of course.
Needs to spot these Roaches coming out. That's a ton of Roaches in production. Is going to spot a couple sitting next to the hatchery, but that in of itself doesn't necessarily ring the alarm bells. However, with so many Phoenix out, I don't even know if you can produce enough Roaches to get across the map and do any damage. And Snute has already committed into a huge amount of ground units, very little Zerg things that shoot up on this side of the map.
I mean, the Roaches combined with a Ling Flood behind it, of course, will be maybe difficult. I mean, it's just going to be so many Phoenix that my point was, even if maybe they don't clean up the Roaches, they could try and just stab the economy and just completely wipe that out. But they are just going to go ahead and follow the Roach. He realizes what's up now, but Snute also realizes what's up now. And I mean, is this desperation? He can actually do much with this push.
I think Hartstem might actually be underestimating this a little bit. Is actually rallying probes out of the 3rd. Hasn't started building a Void Ray yet. The Phoenix getting very low on energy. The Zerglings coming in as well. Most of the Roaches are gone, but the 3rd does not have a lot of defense left. That Oracle dishing out a lot of damage. The last couple of lifts going down, but this 3rd base is very exposed.
Yeah, only 1 shield battery, but you're right about the energy on the Phoenix. Like, that is the main problem. A lot of the earlier ones had a lot of pickup energy, but now we're getting into the Lings. It looks like most of them are gone, but the Oracle is just doing a ton of work. The shield battery is out, but that Nexus does not look like it's going to go down. 9 probes were lost, but that seems to be it for the push. And was that ultimately worth it for Snute?
Yeah, this is such a weird situation now. That 3rd base looks like it's going to go down, but that Oracle had so much energy banked up. It is at so many kills right now. It is insane. And I mean, there's more Zerglings on the way because Snute knows he needs to finish it. But look at his worker count. He's only at 55 drones. I mean, if he gets the hatch, he can bounce back. But this is a very awkward scenario. If Hartstem keeps the 3rd, Snute is in huge trouble.
Yeah, that seems to be a significant problem. You know, Hartstem is realizing like he is just link flooding, so he's trying to get some oracles. Now there comes a fleet beacon. I think he knows if he can hold the third base, but it seems like it's a given now that he will be in a good position. And then Snute will have to find some way to stop the onslaught of the, you know, the bigger and better air army. But those Phoenix, of course, they all lived. Nothing attacked them. They'll eventually gain all their energy back. They can go just do some harassment. The Hydras that are on the way are also not. They're not like, you know, the automatic defense because Phoenix is, and I do believe +1 did finish, it did. They're actually pretty good against them. They have an extremely high number of Hydras to feel confident.
That's still such a big Phoenix fleet. That is very fearsome. You can see the gearing up here for the Hydra Queen push, but Hartstem's already spotted it minutes before it's even going to get to his side of the map. And immediately Hartstem should be trying to get down maybe cannons. I'm not sure if he actually has a forge, but definitely shield batteries. Maybe try and squeeze the carriers out. It's going to be a ton of Hydras and Queens, but it's going to be all in. And these Phoenix have seen the drone count is not that impressive. They know there's not a big follow-up. And yeah, the reactive forge, always a good choice there for Protoss because those Queens are going to take a long time to waddle across the map. I
do love the forge, but I'm actually worried about the timing because not only is a forge at the finish, then you got to get extra pylons to make sure those aren't sniped, and then of course the shield batteries and the cannons as you would like. The +1 already been to go down. The +1 already be done means that the +2 is like almost halfway, but I don't imagine he's putting the chrono boost into that so much as actually getting more units. I believe he canceled a carrier, so he's going back into those Phoenix. He knows that all-in is on the way. He's trying his best, and it seems like already he feels confident against the Hydras. Picks up like probably half of them. At some loss to his Phoenix, however. It's 10 Phoenix, 9 Phoenix, to 12 Hydras and 6 Queens, and he rallies. He actually rallies into the Hydras. This could be Snute's moment.
Yeah, that was a lot of damage there. Those Phoenix killed a lot of the Hydras at first, but now they're all gone. It's just probes and zealots on the ground, and Snute with the final wave and manages to break through. Phoenix is just not quite the answer, and the creep spread behind that push, allowing the Queens and Hydras to get over there so quickly. Hartstem without the forge ready, of course, dealing with that weird chaotic scenario, having to recall probes to the third. Just wasn't able to get on top of it, even though the initial hold was looking very good for the Dutch Protoss.
He seems so confident going into that last fight, and I wonder if that was confidence. He was like, you know, Phoenix can be good against Hydras, or if it was more of like, well, if I kill enough Hydras, maybe he backs off. You know, maybe that buys enough time for these shield batteries to finish and more Phoenix to arrive. Of course, he had misrallied them anyways. But Snute's looking quite chill. It seemed like he expected that win when actually I think we were both a little bit nervous after his Roach attack didn't work. But maybe he had the master plan all along.
That's such a weird position to gauge as well, right? Because you're like, okay, I mean, I've kind of gotten rid of the probes on the third base, but I'm not on a great economy myself as the Zerg, but you could kind of see, it felt almost like a pre-planned series of pushes there from Snute. Wanted to commit hard to the Roachling on the third base, wanted to follow up with the fast Hydra Queen. It seemed like he was very, I think, sure and confident of where he was heading next. So despite things maybe not panning out quite right, the next step was very well refined. He hit a tight timing. And Hartstem caught out just a little bit unprepared. I mean, that looks so different if there's just 3 or 4 cannons at the front with a few batteries behind them. It changes everything.
It really does. Those Phoenix probably aren't nearly as aggressive. There's quite a few more as they get chronoed out. And it's a different ball game. But now I was talking to some players. I think some of the cast, I think you actually favored Hartstem a little bit, right? And I was like, I think Snute, he's been so consistent this WCS. I mean, even without their scores to each other, which Snute is also winning that, like I could disregard that too. It's just like Snute seems destined to make the round of 16, basically. I know he's gonna retire maybe eventually, but he's just so solid. I don't think he's stopped playing or anything like that. So I'm like, well, you're gonna get there. And I think you're gonna do it maybe in first place of this group, but Raynor is quite the tough opponent.
Yeah, this is a tough group to come out on top of course. If you can get this first win, it is a great way to start things off. As you said, 2 veteran players with a lot of history behind them. And down here in the bottom left-hand side, the Zerg player representing Team Liquid in the blue, he is Snute.
In the top right, down 1, it is the red Protoss Hartstem. A lot of cheering for Hartstem.
Yeah.
I heard those whistles.
Flaming Lips, as he's known amongst the Chinese fans. He's a player with a distinctive style and always one of the more entertaining social media feeds as well. Hartstem's just such a character in the scene. And he is a player who is sometimes a little bit more hot or cold. He loves to toe the line of greed, I think, further than any other player. And we saw it in that last game where he saw masses of roaches coming across the map and he transferred probes to his third base. That's Hartstem in a nutshell. He loves to do these just like, no, I think I can hold this. I understand how this works, and he'll commit to that. It looks like he's trying to fake a cannon rush here, wants to get a big response from Snute, but Snute only biting the bait with a single drone, stays calm, doesn't overreact. And Hartstem, of course, never had a forge. He was just trying to create the false sense of threat there. Goes for a normally timed expansion, doesn't really cost him a lot. But good to see him trying to throw Snute off. Snute did have some trouble with cannon rushes against his teammate Mana back in WCS Austin earlier this year. And Hartstem himself has actually been building a bit of an image as someone who's cannon rushing in this matchup in the last month or so. So it's nice to see him play the double mind game there.
Yeah, well, when Lost and Found, it really is like mind game on mind game on mind game. Because I think some people say like, well, it's so expected. Like, why would they? And then they actually do it, and it's still tough to complete. I mean, the resurgence of the cannon rush, the more complex cannon rushes, certainly has made this year a pretty fun time.
Turkey Dano would agree. There's been some memorable moments. Haas, of course, really taking the fight to Serral at the last WCS Stop Finals as well, where, I mean, Serral really had to pull some magic tricks out to get his way out of some of those early games in that finals.
Yeah.
It's a tough build to play against, but it is going to be the more standard path here for Hartstem into the Stargate. And I wonder if we're going to see him go for a repeat strategy. Is he so confident in the, you know, the mass Phoenix Skytoss style? I feel like that's something you pull out a little bit more as a surprise in game one.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'd be really surprised to see him go into, well, certainly the triple Stargate. I mean, you go for 2 and then maybe kind of get a mind game where Snute's like, are you doing the same thing again? But you actually transfer back, play more normal game, maybe. But, you know, I brought up that Hydra all in, and then Snute didn't do it as I was expecting it or as you normally expect it, but he did kind of eventually do it. And I wonder if he is just planning on even Lost and Found to do something, well, aggressive again. I don't know, the roaches, or if it's going up here with those Hydras. But I would not be at all surprised, as he seemed fairly confident, especially at the camera shot. He was like, yep, that's how it goes.
Yeah, definitely always looking to just build up momentum in these early stages. This Overlord here, going to spot the Phoenix, going to see just extra gateway at the front. Lack of information for Zerg, a very common scenario. Not a lot of Zerg players are enjoying getting the Overlord speed. The Protoss players are focusing on denying the information, and this puts Zerg in the dark. This time around, Snute opting, though, for the fast evolution chamber. So he's going to be going for Ling speed attack, +1 melee. And that's going to allow the Zerglings to be very good. So this is almost always a sort of Ling Queen defense into some faster than normal Hydras. You're trying to skip the Roach portion of the game entirely.
Right. I mean, do you think this is because he's a little worried about the multiple Stargate? Oh, nice little Ling Queen. Not getting too much from it. Yeah, because he could be thinking like Hartstem could do another multiple Stargate build.
It's pretty good against it, right? I guess the main advantage you're looking for if you're expecting a heavy Phoenix play is denying the third base for those upgraded Zerglings. You're going to have a good ability. If you're doing that, I mean, we see 8 Zerglings starting up now, you really want to just stop that third getting established. Once there's pylons up, creating choke points, there's Adepts kind of wedged in corners, it's hard to stop it. And this is a very well-timed expansion, but more Zerglings are queuing up right now. And we're going to find out very shortly just how much Snute wants to commit to trying to deny that third base.
Yeah, O2 Oracle is going to come in now. The Adepts are going to find the Lings and probably be surrounded by them. Only kill 3 drones, and the Adepts are getting surrounded. Partially surrounded. At least they have some of their backs against a wall. This is, of course, before +1 is done. Yep. But the Adepts mostly all going to lose their lives. But traded out with the Lings. Snute going to make 16-24. Sorry, he's making a lot more. He does have eyes on the third base, but a couple of sentries being warped in, a little bit of SimCity. I'm surprised they don't have a shield battery. No, he's looking to go for some SimCity.
Yeah, getting a Robo, a Forge, and a Twilight, so going into the standard ground-based macro behind this. And there is a lot of Zerglings out on the map. Snute is no doubt going to be poking in, but both Oracles survived. They've got a decent energy count, and that should make this nothing more than an annoyance. I mean,
Yeah.
Snoot's going to look for a few rallying probes, but he really shouldn't be able to find any more damage than that.
He gets a little out of position, so the Sentry, unfortunately, to try and help out. And seems with the Oracle, as you were saying, threatening the Lings and plenty of energy on both those Oracles. He's not going to stick around for long. On his way to +2 melee now, which is nice for the Banelings. Now they'll one-shot those probes. And we have Hartstem going into charge +1, but going right into the double Robo.
Yeah, and +2 melee is already starting up on the Zerg side. So even though Snute didn't get a lot of damage done with those Zerglings, I still quite like his position. Upgrade-wise, once those +2 Banelings finish, you can 2-hit High Templar. You can, of course, 1-hit probes, which is massive. Is going to dive in here. That shield battery with some nice healing. The Zerglings not really finding any damage there. That's always frustrating. You managed to knock half the energy off a shield battery. It's not exactly what Snute was hoping for, but there's Zerglings, they're expendable at this point in the game.
Yeah.
And he's about to kind of finish off his work account, right? Get maybe half of the workers filled on the 4th base, start pumping out the Hydra Baneling, and that's where he's going to start to just kind of prong in from multiple angles, starting to attack Hartstem. And the real challenge for the Protoss player in this scenario is defending your 4th base, getting up enough Psystorm, and just not getting overwhelmed by the Hydra Bane.
I feel like the problem for Protoss when they do what Hartstem does, right? So in this game, he didn't go for the Archon drop for a little bit of pressure. He had no threatening Warp Prism at all, and he didn't do multiple Phoenix or the Oracles. Weren't ever going to get a lot done. So the point is, like, you haven't done a lot to the Zerg. You're not going to be doing a lot to the Zerg. You're going to be waiting for your at least your charge +1, but maybe even Storm, your mortal count to grow. And what happens when you let the Zerg just explode? Like, the creep strat gets out of control, up to 80 drones. Snute felt comfortable to do that. He was like delaying his Hydra then about as long as possible. And sure, all of his upgrades are a little bit late, I suppose, but Hartstem just doesn't seem like he's quite ready to be attacking. He's going to go Warp Prism now. He's not going for that Storm, so there might be that attack with charge and +1. A lot of gateways finished up as well. But by then, Snute's upgrades would all be finished. And he's obviously making army now because he's done on the drones.
It's an interesting scenario here, isn't it? Because Hartstem is delaying that Storm for a while because he just needs, I guess, enough Immortals and Archons before Storm becomes super, super vital. He's going to go for a 4th Nexus now, but there we go, yeah. That Infestation Pit was down very fast and straight into Hive. So this is an interesting thing. You won't see this with too many other players. A lot of people will try to get things done at the Hydra Bane stage. Snute is like, nah, I'll just use Hydra Bane defensively. We'll spread creep. I'm going to go straight up to Great Aspire off the back of this. We haven't seen a Lurker Den, so I'm pretty certain it's going to be a Broodlord transition, and trying to get in there before Hartstem has up the Tempest to counteract that. I think Hartstem, he needs to scout. He's hallucinating Phoenixes right now and starting to send them out because he needs to identify, is this a committed Hydra Bane assault? Or do I need to start teching up? And the answer is that Hive is almost done. It is actually desperation time for Hartstem to begin that Fleet Beacon and extra Stargate. If he doesn't get that going, he's only got about another minute and a half to push across the map and bring the fight to Snute before Broodlords are out. And if you're only on ground units when your opponent's got Broodlords, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, he did see the Infestation Pit. He's going to confirm the Hive timing. Actually, almost was able to see it complete with the Lucent Phoenix. But it can't be difficult. Like, if you only see the Infestation Pit, what if they are still maxing out on Hydras and Lings? But what I was looking at was, I thought we had 2 more Warp Prisms produced. Do we have a total of 3 Warp Prisms, or am I crazy?
Yeah, no, he actually built 2. So, yeah, gonna get the counter attacks going there as well. There we go. The Stargate and Fleet Beacon go down now. So we'll be looking to get out Tempests most likely. I think against fast Broodlords like this, it can be scary to go straight into carriers, but you know what? We haven't really seen an Aspire and Great Aspire, just Adrenal Glands. Snute's just chilling for the moment. Is just building up Hydra Bane, so not actually really using the Hive for anything other than Adrenal Glands. I didn't even realize there was no Spire down. He's going to just start going for it. Zerglings on the backside, looking for a bit of a wraparound. They're not finding any angle. The Stasis Traps force field the army out. A few Banelings in the mineral line, get some nice connections, but this is still a very small Protoss army against a gigantic Zerg swarm.
Yeah, even though there's like pseudo force fields going down with the Stasis Trap units and the Lings are behind, not doing too much. Snute is still going to try to push the issue. He's out of Banelings at this point, but he's collapsing in on some pretty well upgraded Lings. A lot of Hydras still alive. Out of stasis, and that army, that Protoss army does not look that scary. I don't believe those High Templars have Storm, so he's just gonna back off and give away the 4th base, but he also gave away so much army in trying to defend the 4th base.
Yeah, even though a nice Storm hits, the High Templar does have to morph in desperation. The Immortal Barriers are out, and there's just too many Hydras and Zerglings here. Snute teching upwards towards Hive, doesn't even need to use it, just rolls in with a Hydra Bane, senses how weak the Protoss force was, and Snute going to take a very decisive 2-0. You called it Zombie Grub. He is just too consistent right now. He is performing very, very well. Didn't even give Hartstem a chance in that series.
I suppose I called who the eventual winner was, but I thought there was at least going to be one very long game. I thought Lost and Found was going to be it with how they were opening up, but just in one fell swoop, kind of just forced his way in there. I guess it's hard for Protoss to sometimes judge exactly, like, because they can still have that maxed out link being like Hydra Army, even if they also are getting that high, right? But you don't want to lag behind. If it is Broodlords, you don't also want to not consider Broodlords at all. But GG, it's only the first, it's a preliminary match of Group A, so there's still a chance that both of these guys make it out. And, Snute did a very good job 2-0ing. We are now going to get his thoughts on his performance with Smix.
Thank you very much, Zombie Grub. Congratulations, Snute. I had a chance to talk with you a little bit before this match, and I know that you said you don't like to play first thing on the main stage, and yet it still seems to work out for you. So how do you feel about this series?
I think, I don't know, it just went better than expected, and yeah. I didn't expect to play so well. Like, I stayed on top of my injects and the creep, and the unit movement was okay, so yeah, it went well.
Well, it always feels nice to start off with the win, especially at this event, as this event is really, really important. It's the last WCS stop, and as someone who's currently ranked 9th right now, I can't help but feel like you must feel the pressure a bit, so how is it for you?
Yeah, I want to make BlizzCon, but at the same time, I know it's very hard, and if I do make it to BlizzCon, it's going to be even more difficult, so I'm just trying to think of one match at a time.
Well, speaking of one match at a time, your next match is going to be between one of two Zerg players, and in a way, I feel like they're opposites, because on the one hand, you have Raynor, who's this young 16-year-old that's up and coming, and Bly has been around literally forever. So what are your thoughts on those two players?
I think Raynor is showing a lot of promise lately. He's very strong in CVC. Bly is also very strong in CVC. He has his own style, and he's very tough to predict. So they're very different players, but they're both very, very strong at CVC. So no matter which one I get, it's going to be difficult.
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts, Snute, and best of luck in your next match. Nathanius, back to you.
Thank you very much, Smix. Exciting ZvP series to start things off. Two very popular European players, but Snute prevailing gentleman. Hartstem fought very hard, but not quite enough this early phase.
Yeah. It kind of unfortunate that in this first series, which is going to be a 3 Zerg 1 Protoss group from Hartstem, we see very basic and kind of standard play and just a little bit uninspired, right? He just kind of got attacked. I did like the triple Stargate, I like that attempt, but one of the things we saw is he's going 3rd Nexus and then straight into carriers after doing 0 econ damage. All he did was pick up a bunch of roaches, lost 9 probes himself, and then was like, you know what? I'm going to go into carriers. That's the kind of thing you don't expect from a player at the caliber of Hartstem. If Snute just doesn't attack there, sure, it's a great call. Yeah. But if he does attack at all, it's one of the easier wins you'll see, and that's unfortunate to see in that short best of 3.
Roll him over.
Yeah, I didn't hate it too much. I think it's a cool build. Obviously, I'm in love with the Phoenix. Everyone knows that. But I think it's one of those builds where it looks either great or very silly. I think if he would have swept in a couple of times to pick up some reinforcements and just buy that little bit of extra time or just get a wall of cannons near the 3rd base, because it's all about surviving one fight. If he does survive that fight with, like, let's say 10 Phoenixes, then the carriers come out. It's a completely different ball game. I believe he could take it. So
absolutely.
I think the first game looked a little more lopsided than maybe it actually was. But that second game, that's just one of those traditional Hydra, Bane, Ling attacks. And you feel like we're dancing back and forth, and then the swarm comes and he just wasn't ready. And it's weird how that works. Because you look at it, you're like stasis traps, shield batteries, Archon. Maybe this is enough. And then in the end, it wasn't enough.
Yeah,
it didn't even matter, you could say.
Great call, Jeff.
In the end, it didn't even matter. And good victory there for Snute to advance on. We expect him to play well. He has a lot to play for here. Do we have any other games going on? Kev, you were telling me you were just getting into the start of one?
Yeah, I'm in the early middle of a ZvZ game. And I was like, you know what, there's a lot of games out there, but I feel I should join a ZvZ because there's a chance we won't get to see many of those this weekend. So I'm actually in Jon Snow versus Zenson. Now, unfortunately, I still have the very old default overlay, guys. I will fix that after this game.
I like seeing the unit portraits, Kev.
Yeah, but we just have to switch servers, so that's why this happened. Not really a lot has happened in this game yet, but Zenser, our blue Zerg, is starting to get a little bit aggressive, but it seems like Jon Snow's more than ready to deal with this. So that's pretty much all I have for you at this point, Nate. Lings and Banes in game 1 between Zenster and Jon Snow, who are in a group together with Crow from France and also Cloudy from China.
Speaking of, we're going to take a look at the groups as they stand so far here in group stage number 2. Gentlemen, feel free to call out anything that tickles your fancy here. We can see Group A. Snute took that first match. Raynor as well against Bly.
No small thing. Like I said, and I kind of always am the voice of person who's like, Bly is amazing as ZvZ, but he truly is. The few tournaments that he's won have been off like hilarious 6 or 7 ZvZs in a row, beating the likes of a Laser and Snute and some of these amazing Zergs. So that's cool, and it's great too, because Raynor, also one of those storylines where for a little while there, especially in the GSL, we were like, holy cow, this kid is amazing. But one of the tough parts about our scene is if you're not doing well in the WCS, we don't talk about you very much. So Raynor, unfortunately, got a little quiet. Would love to see him have a big showing here.
Group B, no results in yet. You were talking about Crow. You were talking about Jon Snow and Zanster. That's that game that you were just looking at, Kev.
Yeah, I think this is a funny group because I don't really see an overwhelming favorite here. Cloudy is obviously a crazy Protoss player from China. Crow is one of those European Zergs that I'm really not that familiar with. He's good, but he's not like Denver good or something, you know, so he's definitely a tier below. I would normally say that Jon Snow and Zanster are the 2 most established players here that should advance, but I mean...
I think Zanster's the clear favorite in my opinion. I mean, it gets a little bit weird with the Chinese team because we don't know as well. Yeah. Jon Snow, that's like the prove it group. I mean, you can't ask for a better group for a player like Jon Snow where he doesn't have a couple of monsters. He needs to make it out of that group if he's going to be a North American person we can get behind.
Group C, though, we got some of our Titan powerhouse players, Showtime and Nurchio, going up against the likes of Nice and Go-Go Joey. Kev, I heard one of your favorite players.
Absolutely. I use him as an example every now and then. Showtime and Nurchio should absolutely make it out of this group. If not, it would be a big disaster for both of them. Because Showtime obviously has been working hard in Korea. He wants to do well here. Nurchio desperately needs the points to make sure he doesn't drop out of the top 8. Yeah. Anything other than a Showtime Nurchio 1-2 here would surprise me and shock me.
Okay. And we're going to
electrify him.
And I would leave the casting. Tears.
And we look at our next group. We got Mana, Silky, Hero Marine, and Future. They're kind of an interesting group here.
A feisty one, where normally you'd say the 2 Europeans are the big favorites, but don't sleep on those 2 North Americans. Yeah. I know that if you ask Fear Dragon, he'd probably say he's expecting Future to win it and Silky to be the runner-up. I don't want to go that far, but those are 2 very good North American players. I think, however, Big Gabe is the best out of the 4, but second place could be hard for Mana.
Okay, looking up forward. Anything catches your eye here in Group E? Dolan, Raze, DNS, and Clem. Terran Protoss action.
Similar analysis to what Kevin just said. If DNS and Clem aren't your 1 and 2 to make it out of this group, then something really potentially exciting happened, but also disappointing if you're fans of those 2 folks. So they are the clear favorites. Dolan, like I said, kind of makes his appearance almost at every one of these WCS stops and he is in the group stage 1 and 2 and does pretty well, but that's about where his run ends.
Yeah, Dolan is a guy that can maybe sneak into the top 16 of a North American event, but he's going up against 2 guys that could normally sneak in the top 8 of a European event, so...
Yeah, and then we look at Group F. We got Semper, the Canadian Terran player, going up against a bunch of Protoss, Roddy.
Yeah, this is a fun one. I would normally say Semper and Shadone are your top 2 picks, but Disc is an excellent Protoss player. He streams a lot. He's really high up on the ladder. Riser is a clear underdog here. I am familiar with him, but normally he's not as good as the other 3. But Disc should be able to give a good run to the money of Shadone and Semper.
This is one of the closer groups. I think it's less competitive. Like, none of those guys are your favorites to go very far, but for those guys, it's a really exciting group.
Yeah. Champ, Teat Drogo, Time, and Stefano in Group G. Stefano comes in as always a fan favorite.
And look at him.
He can't complain about this group, Stefano.
One other Zerg, just one.
Yeah, this is really good. He only has Champ. Then we know that Stefano loves ZvP, and Time is a little bit of a mystery to me because I was on the Time hype train in the beginning of the year. Why are you laughing now, Jeff?
Sorry, no, you're fine.
Time eludes us all.
Time, yeah, you're like a lyrical monster over there.
It's maybe because of the new album, Eminem. Like, it's just getting to me.
Roddy's just dropping bars here.
Beats, guys.
So TLDR, I was really on the Time hype train, but he has disappointed in the last few WCS events. I think he was practicing a lot less, so I don't know what to expect of Time.
Next group, we got Cuddle Bear, Namshar, TLO in Denver. Cuddle Bear's got a lot of TVZ to win if he wants to get out of this one, Kev.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Quit throwing a Kev. Jeez, I'm here too, man. Like, what am I? Well,
I know you're going to
put salami in the middle of the sandwich.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Here's what I was going to say.
Talk about those Zergs.
I got something to contribute.
Talk about the Zergs.
TLO won a really great match early on in a tournament. As a former, mostly failed pro gamer, I can tell you that if you win a game early, it does a lot for your confidence. It gets those butterflies out. It just is a good thing to happen, Nate. You can talk to Kevin now if you want.
That's Group H.
I've got an update for you. Is that Jon Snow took the 1-0 lead over Zenster.
Nice.
It was a very standard, straightforward ZvZ, nothing crazy. Roaches ran to the other side of the map, and one person had more roaches than the other one.
Wow.
That was
Could've
it.
said it better myself.
The miracle known as ZvZ.
To sum it up my thoughts real quick about this group, which is a very tough one. I think Cuddle Bear has his work cut out for him. I don't ever see him making out of it. TLO is the underdog, but you know, he made it past that first group stage, and that was a tough one as well, because he eliminated Soul. And I don't want to bash on Soul or something, but Soul is so freaking good, and yet he never makes a proper WCS run. I don't get it. That's a 7K MMR European Terran player, Nate. That doesn't make it out of the round of 100 and, well, whatever.
And he helps train almost all, especially the Polish scene, but all those guys, he trains all of them.
He trains with Serral. Serral's not going to waste his time with Soul if he doesn't think that Soul is very good. So I don't understand what's happening there. I really feel that Soul should have had much better results throughout this year, but it's a great victory for TLO, and I'm very happy for him.
Yeah, looking forward to see him come up as we get ready for our next match, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be going to a quick break. When we return, we'll be getting into our next series here for Group Stage number 2 at the StarCraft World Championship Series.